Hi? I look like I just called Mike Tyson a sissy, and all you can say is hi? Here's your look at the new NECA Toys Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimate Casey Jones. Now you can catch America's favorite green teens in their first live-action blockbuster film. After waiting in a puddle of radioactive waste, these radical reptiles are transformed into New York City's greatest crime-fighting quartet. Casey Jones, the masked vigilante, carries a golf bag on his back filled with clubs, bats, and sticks, makeshift weapons in his war against crime. This highly detailed figure features an assortment of movie-accurate accessories with over 30 points of articulation for maximum posing power. A big thank you to the folks over at NECA Toys that provided this sample of the Ultimate Casey Jones that we could have a look at in this review. For obvious size comparisons, we can bring in the original Casey Jones that was packaged along with Disguised Raph. So not much does change here yet, until of course we see the real reason for picking up this set, and that is the interchangeable unmasked head sculpt. So happy to see that they finally got around to giving us an unmasked portrait. Other comparisons we can certainly make as well. Speaking of Disguised Raph, there he is with his trench coat. And maybe we'll just free up a little bit more space. We can bring in another one of the Ninja Turtles. I never seem to bring Leonardo ever in for some size comparisons. We'll rectify that right now. Here he is next to Leonardo. Two of the Ninja Turtles, two of the four Ninja Turtles that NECA Toys have also put out. The accessories that come packed along with Ultimate Casey Jones don't vary too much from the Casey Jones that came packed with Raphael in Disguise. We're going to go look at each of the individual things, and I'll compare it along with the one that we got with the original Casey Jones, so you can see, if anything, if there's a difference between the two. Of course, all these accessories will be housed inside the golf bag, so that might as well be the first thing that we have a look at. The golf bag, fairly accurate to the way it looks in the original film, pulling off to the far side the original Casey Jones golf bag. It would be a hard time to see if there's a difference between the two. If anything, I could say that the new Casey Jones golf bag is a slightly darker shade of the same color. From the outside, it may not look too different, but it's not until you look at the inside of the golf bag that you notice that the new Ultimate Casey Jones, the interior of his golf bag is white. I would have to go back and watch the movie again to verify whether the interior of his golf bag was in fact white, or if it was supposed to be the darker color that the two-pack Casey Jones golf bag actually was. So that's the only thing that's really different. Yes, admittingly, this one's a little bit more of a darker shade than this one, but it's more the interior that differs from one to the other. Moving along, we'll put this over here. We'll pick up the first of his weapons, and that's a cricket bat. Nobody understands cricket. You got to first understand what a crumpet is to understand cricket. The cricket bat, again, is a nicely detailed little piece to come include with the figure, and we'll grab off to the side the one that came include with the two-pack. The only thing I could say about the two-pack cricket bat, that's strange to say that, two-pack cricket bat, is that the two-pack version seems to have more of a obvious grain, an obvious grain to the wood or the plastic that's painted to simulate wood, but all the rest of it doesn't look like it changes too much. Even from like this side, they look to be pretty close, except for this side, the inside, I suppose, of the cricket bat is definitely a much more grainier looking wood grain. Grainier looking wood grain. Other accessories he comes included with is his golf club. The golf club, as I stated when we first looked at Casey Jones with the two-pack, is a very softer plastic. Reaching off again to the side and bringing in the original golf club. But again, I don't see too much of a difference between the two. The changes aren't as noticeable, I feel, on the golf club. In fact, if you were to tell me that they were just identical, I would probably believe you. Like the handles, maybe you could say that the handle on the Ultimate Casey Jones seems a little more of a shinier black than the more dull black that they had for the two-pack. Other than that, don't think there's much different at all between the two. The figure also comes included with a hockey stick. The hockey stick, as you can see, we spin this around, has the taping on the side, the little font also there on the side. It's a nice looking hockey stick. For some strange reason, my camera's wanting to focus in on Casey Jones. No, focus in on the accessories first. Then we'll move on to Casey Jones. reaching then to the side again and bringing in the original hockey stick. I want to do like the comparisons as best I can to show you guys if there are in fact differences between the two. Hockey stick again, not too much different, although the wood coloring I could say is a little bit lighter for the Ultimate release and a little more darker and dingier for the 2-pack release. The figure also comes included with a couple of bats. A Jose Canseco bat? Tell me you didn't pay money for these. He gets 2 of those, and I'll grab only one of them because the other one was pretty much identical. You can see, though, that there is definitely a difference between colors from one to the other. The Ultimates, which are these ones right here, are much lighter than the 2-pack baseball bat. Tape is about the same, but it's definitely more the color. The lighter color, I think, looks a little nicer than the darker color that they went with before. Comes a couple of the baseball bats. And last, before we get down to his hands, he also comes with a goalie stick as well. And one last time to do the comparisons, we'll bring in the original goalie stick, so you can see the difference between the two. It's very much a similar case of light versus dark. Light being on the new Ultimate release, more darker I find on the 2-pack release Casey Jones. It's more preference than anything else. Really, now that if you have picked up the 2-pack Casey Jones along with Raphael in Disguise, and now you decide to pick up the Ultimate Casey Jones, you can really pick your poison. Choose for yourself which accessory you would like to display with the figure. Now, of course, all of these will be able to fit into his bag. So we can take the golf bag, put in the bats in first. Not that there's a particular order. Put the hockey stick in. You can put the cricket bat in, and there's actually even space, just barely space, for also the goalie stick. Technically, the golf club is not something until he gets later on into the movie, so it's not really something that was actually inside the golf bag in the first place. But I suppose you probably could find some room and still manage to fit in all the accessories inside the golf bag. And then from there, you can actually fit them over top of the figure's shoulder. I find the easiest way to do this is just bring his arm up like this. And then once it's up, like dressing a small child, you're basically just going to fit it around, get it around his head, like that. And then once it gets cleared past the hair, you can kind of even tuck it underneath the hair to hold it and make it a little bit more stable. And there's Casey Jones with all of his weapons. It'd be rather awkward, I would think, for him to be running around the city streets and in the parks with such large weapons hanging out of his golf bag like this. But he does have the available means. You can fit all of them into the golf bag, and I'm glad to see that they did that. Up next, we'll have a look at the figure's interchangeable hands. And yes, you're right, I yanked the hands out of the forearms for the time being, just so we could cover off the territory of all the hands, and then from there we can decide which hands we want to use. Right? Right. Starting first, he comes with a couple of closed fists. Now I ask you, of all the fun things that NECA Toys pack along with Casey Jones' show of hands, how many people would use these hands for displaying with the figure? I guess if he wants to be fighting somebody and you want to give him a closed fist, you never want to pull a punch unless you have a tight fist. It's less likely to break your fingers. But I guess there's those. If you want to display it along with the figure, I'm never really going to be using those. Instead, I'm going to move my way then onto the grabbing hands. Different gripping hands. He actually comes with 2 different pairs. One pair has slightly smaller holes, suitable for holding the Jose Canseco bats. I guess also for holding the cricket bats as well. And then, slightly larger than that, he also comes with a couple of other grabbing hands as well, gripping hands. The last of his hands, he also comes included with a hand for actually holding the bottom of, like, the goalie stick, for example. And then he also comes with a pointing hand as well. Just to show you, just to indicate, I'm going to grab the hockey stick. And just to show you how that works, you basically just fit it underneath his hand. Like that. So I love the fact that they include a hand like that. Let's choose which hand we want to go with for Casey. I guess probably make the most sense to grab a grabbing hand. So we're going to go ahead and do this. It also helps me to show you guys how to put the hands in place. Generally small pegs, but pretty easy to remove and pretty easy to put back in. We're going to start with a grabbing hand. And just while it's helpful for you, just wiggle it. Just wiggle it as you're popping it into the socket of the forearm. And then let's go ahead and grab this hand right here. Like that. Just to grab one of the weapons and show you how that works. I'm sure everyone by now knows how weapons are held in figures' hands, but just in case, I'm going to go ahead and take the goalie stick, which I did actually do at the beginning of this review, and we'll fit the goalie stick in between his fingers. It may involve a little bit of prying, literally prying. There we go. And then get that in the one hand, and then the whole benefit of having this as the alternate hand is that, yes, you can have the goalie stick resting inside the hand like this. I guess technically as well, you could use that for the cricket bat too. Something that's flat. Oh, and also, let's just fix the hand. That looks a little awkward. So there you go. You can display it like that. Now I know the one thing that you guys are definitely the most interested in is seeing the other accessories that come included with Casey Jones, and that is his swappable head sculpt. This was, if you ask me, the whole reasoning for picking up the Ultimate Casey Jones. Something that we wanted as fans for our Casey Jones to have right from day one. And it could have been really tied to licensing of the likeness of the actor. It was probably one of the main reasons why they couldn't have gotten this head sculpt sooner for the 2-pack that was released along with Raphael in Disguise. Yes, yes, yes. To come included with the Ultimate Casey Jones, certainly a point to talk about, is the unmasked portrait that we finally have coming included with this figure, who bears, I feel, a very strong likeness to actor Elias Coates, who was also in one of my favorite movies of all time, the 1985 Christmas classic, One Magic Christmas. I've probably said that already, a couple of NECA reviews covering off several actors that would actually be in that movie. I would definitely say if you guys haven't had a chance to check out One Magic Christmas, not that I'm plugging One Magic Christmas, but definitely check it out. He was actually in the movie, though many people probably remember him more so from Casey Jones, of course, from the 1998 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. It's a fantastic head sculpt, except for one little smudge of black paint. I don't think he has that on his nose, and yet, unfortunately, it's found its way. I'm going to just put the figure down here for a second so you can see a closer look again at the figure's head sculpt. Why, oh why, again, there we go. Camera's having a tough time with that one. You can see, yeah, there's a little paint splotch. I say little. It looks like a big giant mole on the side of his nose. Other than that, though, I would say I'm very happy with how this head sculpt turned out. It was well worth the wait, if you ask me. If it meant earlier we may have gotten a more inferior head sculpt for an unmasked Casey, I am certainly glad that we had to wait to get one. He still has the longer hair, and just to show you what it looks like, we're going to take off. This is the stock head sculpt, of course, with the mask. And just to quickly show you, we're going to do more comparisons with the original Casey Jones in a second, but just to start off things, I want to show you what the original head sculpt looks like. This might actually be a time and a case where I actually think I like the original Casey Jones masked head sculpt just a little bit more. It seems whiter, and it also seems a little shinier, like what I would imagine the material of the mask to be. Now, whether or not in the movie it's supposed to be more this cream color than a white color, that's debatable, but I almost think I like the original head sculpt, so this works itself out rather nicely. To remove this head sculpt, and again, one last look to see what his face looks like, the little slotted areas, you can actually make out that there's a mouth inside of that. But yes, we're going to go ahead. Take the head sculpt off, just remove it from the ball peg. Fairly easy, actually. And then we're going to go ahead and replace it with the unmasked Casey Jones head. Involves a little bit of twisting, a little bit of pressure, but there we go, finally getting in place. I am disappointed, yes, that there is that little bit of paint there on his nose, but other than that, I'm very, very happy with how this one turned out. And again, one last time to show you guys, I was trying my best to show you guys as much of the features on these figures as I possibly can. That's what the unmasked versus the masked head sculpts look like. Now again, the beauty of these being now released, this guy being released singularly, is that I can have an unmasked Casey Jones, and then just right next to him, I can have a masked Casey Jones. When it comes to certainly his outfits are the same. He has the torn sleeve vest, the very dirty white shirt underneath, and then the gray jogging pants. Paint varies only slightly bit. It seems like the vest is maybe a more lighter gray on the Ultimate release than on the original. I certainly can't help but notice that the shirt is a lot whiter here on the unmasked Casey Jones than it was on the original one. The original one was, at least on mine, a lot dirtier and a lot more gray washed on top of it. The sleeves are also a little bit more dirtier on the original one versus the newer one, and it seems like the jogging pants are a darker shade of gray than the original one that we got before. Flip around the figure so you can see it from the back there as well. Same sculpt, nothing different here other than just a different coat of paint. For the figure's articulation, it would be the same as the original one. Now the head rotates all the way around. One good thing is at least the hair is a soft enough plastic that it seems like, it's pretty easy. You can move it up and down. Oh, actually, one last thing before we get down to looking at the articulation on the figure. There is one last accessory. How could I possibly have overlooked this? He comes also with a separate mask. Now, the way that they've molded the mask, excuse me, articulation, you'll have to take a seat for the time being. The way they've molded the mask with the straps are molded together. The intended plan of this is not necessarily put it over top of his face. I mean, that's what it would look like on his face, but the straps are molded in such a way that they're only really supposed to be something that he either holds or something technically you can even hang on top of one of his weapons. Like, for example, I don't know, if we take like one of his hockey sticks, for example, you could feed the mask on top of the hockey stick and you could kind of just carry it around like that. I think that's kind of cool the way they do that as well. So it's definitely not a mask that he's supposed to wear on top of his face. It certainly serves as just a standalone accessory. And again, I'm really, really glad that they included that along with the unmasked portrait. Okay, now we can resume with the articulation. So we already looked at the head. Check, check. We can now move on to the arms. The arms hinge out comfortably at a 90 degrees or just a little less than 90 degrees. This one arm is a little on the tighter side, but if you do have any, again, difficulty with moving your NECA figures, please don't force things. That's only going to break the arms. If there is, say, paint buildup, for example, which we can certainly talk about the paint, the hinge joints on the interior of his shoulders clearly are caked with white paint. Not to the point where it prevented me from being able to move the arms. I had really no difficulty moving the arms out, but the paint has flaked off a couple of times already. Would have been nice, I think, to prefer instead using a white peg as opposed to a flesh-colored peg, because it kind of looks like he's now got rips in his armpits. That is some lethal BO, believe you me. The arms do rotate all the way around. Yes, you can do that. By the way, his vest is a softer plastic, so while I am moving things around, there's nothing really holding back the arms, preventing them from actually being able to rotate. He does have no swivel in the bicep, but he does still swivel in the forearm. Single hinged elbows, sadly though, for Casey Jones, and he does swivel or rotate the hands all the way around. The shirt is more of a softer material. While it may feel like he's actually got a ball joint in there, just by the way he's moving his torso, it's really hard to access it. Like I said, it's softer plastic here. The legs split out. It almost seems the way I'm moving them that they have ratcheted joints, but I don't imagine that they've incorporated ratcheted joints. It could be just a case where, again, I don't know again why we continue to look at the groin of these figures, but it seems like the legs kind of click, like they're hitting little ledges along the way. It allows the legs to hinge out almost to that point of being splits. You can move the legs forward, move the legs back. This, by the way, is also softer plastic. The lower, I guess the lower top part of his pants, but the lower part of his torso is also softer plastic. He does have a bend at the knee, which allows the lower leg to rotate back and forth. And then for his feet, now his feet are going to be a little bit more limited. What they've done is they've sculpted decent looking sneakers, but the sneakers, unfortunately, here's where the hinge joint is. It's right at the top there. But you can see really how much mileage you can actually get from that hinge joint. That's all you can really get. I mean, not that you're going to be going with any extreme poses on Casey anyways, but that's really to the limitations of what you can actually do with the legs. The feet only barely rock back and forth, but the intended plan of them more so is just the fact that you can rotate them like this way. All in all, just a great looking figure. Well worth the wait, again, if you ask me. It's a shame, again, that with my particular Casey Jones, the unmasked portrait, which, again, is the way I'm going to be displaying this figure, he has a big spot on his nose. I wonder if I can actually take that off. I hope. Maybe I can try. I don't know. But there he is next to, again, the masked version of Casey Jones. And you know what? Maybe we'll free up a little bit more space in the middle. For no reason other than just the fact I love Raphael in a disguise outfit, and I seldom ever bring him in for comparisons in this review. I'll bring him in so you guys can see the difference between the two. I really technically should have brought in Donatello. The banter that he's had with Casey Jones in the movie is epic. Really would have brought him in. That made more sense. But again, at least it gives you an idea of what NECA Toys was able to do, revisiting a figure later on. I mean, everybody who had originally collected the 2-pack Casey Jones that came included with a Raphael in disguise wanted an unmasked portrait, and may, for reasons that we don't know, it may have been just licensing of the likeness of that particular actor. Maybe that was one of the reasons why it got delayed. I'm glad that eventually we did get ourselves an unmasked Casey Jones for the inevitable review of hopefully looking at the April O'Neil, another figure that's just recently been released. I'm super excited to have a look at that one. While sure, yes, Ultimate Casey Jones on paper is just the same Casey Jones that we got packaged before along with Raphael in disguise, it is really the additional pieces of having the removed mask as well as an uncanny likeness to actor Elias Coates, who played Casey Jones in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. And I think he actually came back for TMNT 3, Turtles in Time. Many people don't tend to want to really remember that movie. I think the head sculpt on this guy is fantastic. It's disappointing, yes, that he had the little smudge on his nose, but other than that, I mean, I can live with the little smudge on his nose. I'm just happy that they've got such a good likeness of this guy. And it's going to really go well when we eventually get that Ultimate April O'Neil, which right now I think she is circulating some stores and online. Hopefully we'll get my hands on her at some point soon. This also, as my own personal goal, brings me one step closer to fulfilling having all the figures based on characters from one of my favorite movies of all time, One Magic Christmas. Previously to this, we had also looked at Harry Dean Stanton, who was also, of course, part of that 40th anniversary Alien set. He was in One Magic Christmas as Gideon, and then Elias Coates played Eddie. So the only thing I'm really missing now, I guess we're missing the little girl, but a Mary Steenburgen. If at some point they could release a Back to the Future 3 Mary Steenburgen, one step closer to getting all the characters from One Magic Christmas. It's good to have personal goals on the side of just collecting. Speaking of collecting, if you guys are interested in picking up Ultimate Casey Jones, with now the Unmasked head sculpt, he is available right now in retail stores and online. A big thank you to the folks over at NECA Toys that provided the sample of Ultimate Casey Jones that we could have a look at in this review. If you guys are new to this channel, enjoying all the content you're seeing, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Turn as well the bell notification and keep your peepers peeled because there will be more NECA reviews lined up and coming your way. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.